So what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the biology of crappie. Here we're going to be discussing everything you need to know to catch this fish, and we're just going to be giving you more information about them in general. So let's jump into it. So first off, we're going to be talking about species identification. Crappie belong to the sunfish family Centrararcharidae.
I tried.
We did our best. That's all
Well,
that
I did
matters.
my best. We tried.
Maybe next year we'll come back and try it
Maybe
again.
next year. I'll come back and I'll try it next year.
This family also includes bluegills, brim, smallmouth bass, and largemouth bass. Crappie are very tasty fish, and in my opinion, they rank among my top 3 favorite, especially in freshwater fish, because they are so palpable and desired. They are known as panfish because these crappie, oftentimes they're large enough to fit in a pan, and they do so perfectly. Large crappie are also referred to as slabs. Real fun to catch. And there are 2 distinct species of crappie, the black crappie and the white crappie. The black crappie can be identified most accurately by counting the hard spines on both the dorsal and the anal fins. There will be 7 to 8 on the dorsal or top fin, and 6 to 8 on the anal or bottom fin. These black crappie also have irregular or dark blotches and speckles that can cover the body, but they may not be visible depending on the time of the year, the water clarity, or the depth that the fish lives at. Breeding males typically have extremely dark coloration, especially noted within the head and along the sides of the fish. Oftentimes these male crappie will be nearly black. The white crappie can also be identified by counting the hard spines on the dorsal and anal fins. There would be 5 to 6 on the dorsal and 5 to 7 on the anal fin. The sides of white crappie will have dark scales forming 5 to 10 vertical bars or stripes along the sides. These bars can be difficult to see if a fish is caught very deep in the water or if the water happens to be dark or very turbid. The color change is the primary reason hard spine counts should always be used to identify species of crappie, even for seasoned anglers and scientists. Now we will be discussing the range of habitat and where these crappie typically live. The crappie is a native fish to North America, and its range extends from the Canadian border all the way down south to Texas and Florida. And then it extends from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Rocky Mountains. These crappie are found in freshwater systems throughout most of the United States, including lakes, ponds, rivers, swamps, and even large creeks. Both black and white crappie prefer waters with little to no current, although I have caught a few within heavy current right below dams and within eddies. These crappie are schooling fish, and they will swim out to deep water structure. They will remain around structure as a school almost year-round. These crappie often set up along rock piles, artificial reefs, bridge pillars, current breaks, eddies, and brush piles. And brush piles are certainly preferred habitats for crappie. The black crappie favors warmer temperate waters that are dense with aquatic vegetation. Black crappie also prefer clearer waters with steep gradient structure when available. This allows the fish to go into shallow water for spawning and for feeding opportunities with the ability to move throughout the water column to avoid predation. During the summer and winter months, these fish tend to inhabit deeper waters, while in the spring and fall, they can be found in shallower areas. White crappie have upper thermal limits which are around 90 degrees, while the black crappie's thermal limits are around 95 degrees. Now we will discuss spawning and reproduction methods of crappie. Crappie spawning in general is similar between both species. with only subtle differences that help prevent hybridization. The spawning process for crappie begins with males moving to shallow water, which ranges from 3 to 6 foot deep. Typically, a community spawning site is selected near overhanging brush piles, log jams, or a rock structure. These fish prefer to make their spawning beds over semi-hard bottom or bottom that has fine gravel. Individual crappie build a round nest by fanning off soft sediment away to expose sand, gravel, and hard substrate. Nest building begins in a somewhat communal area, which allows for group protection of the entire spawning area. The spawning process begins for black crappie as waters increase in temperature beyond 56 degrees and starts slightly later in the low 60-degree range for white crappie. As water temperatures continue to rise, females move into the nesting area, spawning with multiple males over several days. A female black crappie can produce up to 180,000 eggs, while a female white crappie may have as much as 325,000 eggs. That's a lot of eggs. Eggs are adhesive and they stick to sediment, rock, or vegetation. They become hardened by the water over time, and they tend to hatch within 2 to 4 days depending on the temperature of the water. During this time, the male will guard the nest, while the female will move on to another nest and continue to spawn with other males. Once females have committed to spawning, if the water temperature rapidly drops during a cold front, these fish may abandon spawning for the remainder of the year, resulting in a lost spawn. As the spawning season ends, black crappie will remain in shallow water into early summer, while the white crappie tend to move into deep water right after the spawn. Sexual differences in coloration between male and female crappie will become almost non-existent outside of the spawning season, resulting in no external differences between the two sexes for the majority of the year. Now we will look at size limits and lifespan of the crappie. The largest crappie ever caught was a 5-pound, 7-ounce black crappie. It was caught in 2018 in Tennessee. Here in Alabama, the minimum size limit to keep crappie is 9 inches in total length. The bag limit here in Alabama is 30 fish per person. In southern states, black crappie will average around 5 inches of growth in their first year, another 3 inches in their second year, and 2 inches in their third and fourth year of life. Beyond that, growth is slow and highly dependent upon forage. For white crappie in the southern states, first year growth will be around 4.5 inches. Their second and third year will each be around 2 inches of growth, and subsequent years should be around 1 inch of growth. Due to these slow growth rates, you should expect a 10-inch black crappie to have a minimum age of 3 to 4 years. And a white crappie of this same length should be around 4 to 5 years. In northern latitudes, their growth rate slows considerably. Growth for white crappie is maximized at a water temperature of around 74 degrees and 82 to 86 degrees for black crappie. Crappie mature in southern states at about 1 year and in the northern states at about 2 to 3 years old. Their slow growth means that fish around 6 to 7 inches in length can be mature adults. This leads to overpopulation and stunning some fisheries, leading to smaller crappie sizes. Crappie can live 8 to 10 years, but are one of the most harvested game fish in the United States, leading to a shorter observed lifespan in most fisheries. Now we will discuss what is their diet composed of. Both young black and white crappie will primarily feed on a combination of insect larvae, microcrustaceans, and zooplankton. As they grow in size after the first year and into the second year, they can begin consuming larger prey items such as larger insects, small fish, and larger crustaceans. For the adult black crappie, their diet will tend to stay on the smaller side, favoring insects, crustaceans, and small fish such as the fathead and shiner minnows or small shad. Although the black crappie feed during the day, they are considered to be fairly nocturnal, being most active during the evening and into the early morning. The white crappie has a slightly more active feeding habit compared to the black crappie. The young white crappie will primarily consume microcrustaceans and zooplankton until about year 2, when they begin to consume smaller fish and insects. Adult fish will consume forage items such as fathead minnows, both threadfin and gizzard shad, and even small carp, bluegill, bass, and crappie. Diets can and will vary greatly depending upon their geographic location, water conditions, forage base, and overall what is available to crappie to consume. Now we will discuss predation. Many fish tend to eat crappie. Fish that predate on crappie can include largemouth bass, hybrid bass, flathead catfish, blue cats, and even other crappie. Low oxygen levels in some environments can also cause a fish kill in these populations. Although other fish tend to eat crappie, humans are still a large predator for this fish species. Now we will discuss anecdotal recording. This information comes from me personally, and I have recorded this on my phone over the span of 2 to 3 years every single time I go fishing during the spring. So I have charted and recorded data regarding fishing for crappie in northeast Alabama. The data I have recorded includes water temps, the fish suspension in the water column, and the depths of which I find these fish. At the end of January and beginning of February, I have noted that the water temp typically rises to about 47 degrees. I have found schools of black crappie in approximately 15 feet, and they are suspended about 5 foot off the bottom, and they typically stay at about 10 foot deep within the water column. I find these crappie typically stage off of spawning areas during this time of the year. The larger female crappie have been noted to stage at greater depths at around 20 feet, and they remain farther away from the shore compared to the males. This pattern of fish behavior remains until the water temp exceeds about 50 degrees. I find that the water temp in our location exceeds 50 degrees beginning around March 8th, give or take. About right whenever the dogwoods start blooming is whenever they start spawning, is what I have found. And as the water temp reaches the mid-upper 50s in mid-March, the fish have been noted to move shallower at depths of about 4 to 10 feet and into the spawning areas beside heavy cover. By the end of March, the crappie have spawned and are now more sporadic in their schooling patterns and can only be located with side imaging or behind current breaks within rivers. In all spawning areas that I have discovered, I have observed log jams creating current breaks and fine pea gravel along the banks of the water. As the spawn comes to a close, I have found small schools of crappie on lake points that also have submerged brush piles at around depths of 20 feet. During the post-spawn, I have also caught large crappie, especially way upriver, right behind current breaks and within eddies at depths of around 12 to 18 feet. My favorite thing to fish for crappie year-round, especially pre-spawn and during the spawn, is a monkey milk colored soft plastic with a 1/32 jig head, preferably in the white color. This works very well if the water is very clear. If I find that the water is muddy, such as after a large rain or something, I tend to use a black and chartreuse along with a bright chartreuse jig head. I may have to up the size of the jig head to a 1/16 to allow the bait to get down to the fish because of the heavy current of the rain. Here I'll post some pictures of some crappie that I've caught, especially within the last 2 to 3 years. I really went hard at it, and every single time we go, I typically catch around 20 to 30 crappie. It's a great time, and I made a lot of memories doing that, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. And I hope you can also get out there, and hopefully this video gets you on some fish. Here in the future, I'll be making some fishing videos regarding how to find crappie on side imaging. It's a lot easier to find crappie on side imaging, and you can really hone into that school of fish whenever you're able to do so. So if you think this video helped you out, like, subscribe, and follow the channel for more content. Love you guys. God bless.